Hey guys, welcome back. We are here with another Hunter review, and I am super excited to get into this. I know I kind of sounded like I was complaining about how dark the episodes were, but honestly, I knew that I was going to get hooked into this season, and I am. We're here with episode 82, 83, and 84, and bro, the amount of information, the amount of things that happened, like, it was so much, and I was just so sucked in that I ended up screaming out loud with certain parts. And I will tell you guys which parts it was. I'm just so ready to do this review, so let's get right into it. Episode 82 kicks off with Gon, Killua, and Kite going into what was the underground base of, the underground network that was controlling the NGO. As soon as they get in there, we see this. The facility has been taken over by 3 Chimera ants. We met Yunjun last episode, or we talked about him in our last episode, and he literally has these humans as dogs. The rest of the facility, of all the humans have been wiped out. There's nobody left. One of these humans, this one with the white hair, begs for them to help, and he literally says, "Shut up, dog," and goes to kick him, and literally puts his foot through his head. And he's just like, "I killed this one, I might as well kill the other one." So he kills the other guy. Gon starts getting mad, because you guys know Gon doesn't like death. But as soon as Gon goes to rush, Kite stops him, because there's 2 more Chimera ants. They come out. It's the same 2 that we saw with Yunjun in the last episode. All 3 of them get ready to fight because they're about to get attacked by all 3. The one that looks like kind of like a millipede goes after Gon. The one that looks like a mosquito goes after Killua. Gon punches him, breaks a couple of his arms, but he knows he can't hold back, so he starts charging up his Jajanken. We go over to Killua, and Killua flips his assassin switch. His whole demeanor changes. He actually makes his arms super flexible and starts whipping straight through her arms. She gets mad because, her arms are gone, and she spits out a stinger out of her mouth. But it was just a distraction so she could sting him with her tail from behind. Apparently she injected him with a bunch of poison. Now, us being the audience, we know what's going to happen next. She had no idea, but it's because Killua plays it off and drops. And she turns around, starts talking smack, and next thing you know, her entire vision flips on its head, and we see Killua is having snapped her neck. He then, quickly just takes her head off, because, apparently snapping their neck is not enough to kill them. These guys are still insects. Insects can still live while dismembered, at least for a day or 2. It jumps back over to, you guys remember Ramo, the rabbit Chimera ant that Gon and Killua fought? Well, he's still in pain, but we see this here. We all know what this is. It's huge foreshadowing, but we know what's gonna happen. It goes back over to the fight, and the centaur, Yunjun, doesn't want to wait anymore, even though Kite wanted to watch Gon's fight. And he ends up challenging Kite, and we finally get to see Kite fight, and he destroys this dude. Punches him so hard, knocks his entire horseman on his side, comes over, kicks him in the face, finally stands on his butt, on his back, kind of like how Killua was on the horse, summons his crazy slots, gets to number 4, pulls out the gun, and as soon as this dude tries to rush him, we get this cool scene of Kite just blowing right through him. One shot, dead. He just drops. And then Kite proceeds to watch Gon's fight. We finally get to see Gon use scissors out of his Jajanken. And it turns out he turns his 2 fingers into a goddamn lightsaber. As you guys can tell from my hype level, I am just so, into this right now. He basically cuts this dude to pieces, but he was still alive, and he uses his arms afterwards, after Gon, relaxes. He plays dead, and then immediately tries to attack Gon from behind. Apparently he had venom, all he had to do was bite Gon, and that would have been it. But Kite shoots him, and he dies. And Kite basically scolds Gon for letting his guard down, and he explains to him that these insects can still survive while dismembered. We go back over to Ramo, and Ramo has full-blown unlocked Nen. And he's over here already using Ren, just flexing with all this life energy. And Colt hears from one of his soldier ants that Ramo's acting crazy, so he goes and he sees this. And he's trying to understand how Ramo unlocked this kind of power. The episode ends with Ramo becoming the first Chimera Ant Nen user. And like I said, that episode was basically there to highlight, the fight. The fighting was great. I loved it. But I didn't know that this too was going to become a Nen user because of his fight with Gon. The next episode kicks off with our boy Netero getting a call from the United Nations basically saying they want them to deal with the Chimera Ants. But Netero, being the super genius that he is, realizes that they want the Hunter Association to deal with the Chimera Ants, so that way when the fallout happens for them invading, another country, it can all fall back on the Hunter Association. But the Chimera Ants are a serious threat, so this is something we do got to deal with. We go back to Kite's little squad, and they're talking about the actual chain of command for the Chimera Ants, and we see this. It turns out that this is the Queen's job. The Queen, underneath her, has the Royal Guard, which we haven't met the Royal Guard yet. Underneath the Royal Guard are the squad leaders. Right? Yes. The squadron leaders, then the officers, then the foot soldiers. Turns out that when she makes the king, the Royal Guard no longer serve her. They immediately go to the king. They serve the king. And the Queen drops down, and now she immediately deals with the squadron leaders. And it turns out that this keeps on happening until she creates another king, and it separates and makes a whole new chain of command off of that too. While the kings are supposed to mate with other species to make new queens, and this is how their whole species continues on. The kings mate with other species to make the queens. The queens keep on spitting out babies until they eventually spit out a king, and then on and then on. That's honestly scary to think about. Imagine a Chimera Ant trying to mate with you. Oh my god. So Colt wants to test his hypothesis about Ramo getting the power from fighting Gon. So he has Ramo use his new power to hit Colt. He sends Colt flying into a wall and just completely knocks him out. Almost crushes his face. But he realizes that if they're going to learn anything about this power, they need the human that got captured. So even though he's, half unconscious, he sends Ramo and, Penguin Chimera Ant, whose name I still don't know, to go find the rare that they found earlier. We cut back over to Big Lion Daddy over here, and he is trying to get at Gon, Kite, and Killua. He sends every Chimera Ant in the entire area after them. Every single one. This ugly frog thing jumps at them. They're all surrounded, and he basically tells them they have three options. You can either fight, and we'll let you fight one-on-one. You can try to run, but that's just going to piss us off, and you're going to die anyway. Or you can surrender, which will actually piss us off more. So they decide, Kite's like, this is a great deal, let's go one-on-one. Gon and Killua both want to fight first. They play rock, paper, scissors. Killua loses. Gon fights first. But Gon is still Gon. He tells the Chimera Ant, how do we know when the fight's over? The Chimera Ant tells him one of us is dead. Gon says, okay, but why does it have to be to the death? Now, I know Gon is supposed to go through a huge change in this, but it's really nice to see that he's still Gon. He wants to win this fight without having to kill his opponent. He straight says, if you surrender, I'm not going to kill you. I don't need to kill you. But they say if Gon surrenders, he's going to still get fed to the Queen. So it's just the same as if he died. So Gon fights this armadillo-looking Chimera Ant. At first, it just spins at him. He dodges it, but he uses its tail to start aiming at him, so Gon can't dodge it. So Gon just overpowers it. He charges up his Nen, grabs it by the sides, and literally picks it up and crushes it while it's still in the form of its ball and just completely takes it out. Killua steps up, and he fights like a giant rhino. And And while he's fighting, Kite is worried. Kite sees that they're able to take out the officers really, really easy, but he feels like he's missing something. There's something in the back of his mind that's making him worry. He's not sure what it is, but there's something there. But back to Killua. Killua steps up to this Rhino Chimera Ant, uses Rhythm Echo, and just totally outspeeds this dude. He cannot touch Killua. Killua tries to stab him with his claw fingers, but he can't. The dude's skin's too thick. So he starts zapping him with electricity. This guy's swatting at Killua left and right. Killua is still zapping him, and eventually Killua manages to hit one spot enough to crack it. And as soon as he cracks it, he literally shoves his hand through this Rhino Chimera, and he just drops. Kite's like, okay, cool. I guess the officers can be taken down without much effort. Maybe I'm worried about nothing. Well, Kite steps up to fight, uses his crazy slots, gets the number 2, I believe, and pulls out this giant fucking scythe. Right here, I thought this was the sickest thing I've ever seen. And he looks at Gon and Killua and says, in 3 seconds, jump. And in one move, this dude kills every single Chimera Ant around them, destroys every tree around them, and makes a freaking tornado. I looked at this and I was like, Kazushini, is that you? That is a Bleach reference for any of my fans that don't know. I'm a huge Bleach fan. But we see the aftermath, and he just destroyed everything. It was absolutely psycho. Apparently, this is the only technique he can use with that scythe, and until he uses it, the scythe won't go away. But the episode ends with them heading off toward the nest into the woods with all these people dead around them. The lion, Chimera Ant, and the other two. Sorry, I forgot his name. But they're actually more interested in them because of what they were able to do. So they set up a whole trap for them. But now we go into the last episode, and this episode is where shit got crazy. So it starts off with Gon, Killua, Kite running through the woods, and Kite realizes that they're being followed by a bunch of flyers way up above them. Gon and Killua didn't even notice. Now, it jumps over to Ramo and Penguin Chimera Ant. They're apparently at the spot where humans get ground up into meat for the queen, and they're looking for Pokal. They can't find him. Apparently, he's missing. The butcher that's there, who happens to be a pig, which is ironic, thinks that he might already have been eaten by the queen. Well, while this is happening, Ramos starts having an internal monologue with himself, talking about this power and how, not everybody else has it. This was something that was a gift for him. It was something that only he's supposed to have. And he thinks if he can master this power, he can become the king of the Chimera Ants. And as soon as he thinks that, first off, we find out Pokal's alive. He's actually hitting under a bunch of bones underneath, and he's watching this whole thing happen, and he's freaking out that this guy can use Nen. And as soon as this guy thinks the thought, I could be king, he freezes, and this happens. He feels something happen. Turns out another Chimera Ant was born. Turns out it was one of the royal guards. And just feeling the life energy of this royal guard froze this guy in his tracks. If I didn't know better, I would think this was Hisoka he was feeling. And then we see who the Chimera Ant is. Well, after a little bit. So, we go back to Gon and Kite and Killua. And we hear the leader of the flies, telling the lion Chimera Ant that they need to retreat, they need to run. And all of a sudden, a giant circle appears inside the forest, and everything just gets cut away. The flies were attacking them, trying to lead them out of the forest where the lion was waiting to ambush them. But Kite, being Kite, just took them all out, and we just see them all hit the ground. And these guys end up leaving because they realize that they're entirely and completely outmatched. Killua, Kite, and Gon decide to follow them because if they follow them, they should be able to lead them straight to the Chimera Ant nest. But now the important stuff happens, because now we get to see who it was that Ramo felt. I'm sorry, I know I sped through that, but it was just Kite flexing and slaughtering everybody. But this is who we get to see. I know I shouldn't know who this character is, but I do. It's Neferpito. I can never forget this face for as long as I live. But I didn't know what her personality was like. I've seen clips of her fight with Gon. I know what she does to Kite. I didn't know she was like this. She's super smart, cold as ice, and crazy. Apparently, she was able to hear Ramo's thoughts, and Ramo immediately freezes because she thinks she's about to kill him, or he's about to kill. They call him Sir, so I'm not sure if that's a boy or a girl. I guess they're technically insects, so they might not have a gender. Either way, she puts her hand on his head, and this is what he feels: just that much pressure, and he freaks out. He ends up realizing that, he starts saying that his power was meant to serve. The power that he was given was meant to serve the royal guard, meant to serve the king. And Pito, tells him, come on, let's go talk over there. And as they're about to leave, she freezes and looks at the bones, and is just like, why is there a live human under those bones? And Poco freaks out just in time for Ramo to grab him from out of the bones. Now, we don't exactly see what happens to Poco right away, but we see Neferpito reading a book about human anatomy. And as soon as she does, she starts talking to the penguin about trying to discover what this power is, and that the best way would be to ask the human who's able to use it. But then she starts reading about the human brain. She calls over one of the soldier ants and takes his antenna out. And the next scene we see Gon, Kite, Killua running under the red light of the moon, this was a really, really eerie scene. But we hear Poco talking about the basics of Nen, Hatsu, the 6 types, all that stuff. And then we see what's actually happening to him. And Neferpito is using the antenna to access his brain and force him to basically speak his memories. She's asking him questions and then messing around in his brain to get him to talk and tell them all about Nen. So they learn all about Nen. They learn about, how Nen gets awakened, about all the aura nodes and whatnot. We actually get to see Colt, as he comes to, now really be able to release aura. And they find out how you're able to, learn Nen types through water divination. They have Ramo do it. Turns out he's an enhancer. But then Pito does it. At first, Penguin freaks out because Pito's already able to use Nen without having to fight one of the rares. What freaked me out and had me almost jumping out of my seat, I literally screamed, was the fact that when she does the water divination, the leaf ages and withers up and disappears and just disintegrates. Turns out she's a specialist. I've never seen anything like that before, and I honestly freaked out. If you actually look at my notes, because I take notes for all these episodes, if you actually look at my notes, I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh. I have in all question marks and exclamation points because I was freaking out. But yeah, the way she talks, the way she carries herself, even her voice actor, Japanese and English, just make her sound absolutely nuts. And I feel like I would love this character if I didn't know how effing tapped she actually was. What am I saying? I like the tapped characters. I know what she does, and unfortunately that really taints how I feel about her. But other than that, I think she's an absolute badass. But that's the end of this review, guys. The episode ends with the narrator talking about the dangers of all the ants learning Nen. Kite, Gon, and Killua still rushing the Chimera ant nest. And so much happened. Honestly, as soon as I saw Pito's face, that was a wrap for me. And honestly, I can't wait to get into the next episode. I wanted to keep going right today, but I want to make sure I got this video out for you guys. So I can't wait to do another one of these. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you did enjoy this breakdown. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I do a lot of these. We got what? 60 more episodes before we're done with the series. But that's it for me, guys, and I will catch you on the next video.